always put it in mute.
Good morning. How are y'all? Hey, Richard.
Good morning. Great to see everybody today. Love fellowship, of course.
Good morning, man. Oh, I'll hold it up. You're welcome. Good morning.
Has everybody had a good week?
Yes.
Good, good. Shelley and I prayed very deeply last night that severe weather stayed away, and we got that prayer answered again overnight. I hope nobody was affected. I know there were tornadoes out west last night on the ground near Weatherford and Springtown, so I hope nobody, cutting in and out? Oh, man. Okay. Just let me know if I keep doing it. You can still hear it right now, cutting in and out? Oh, man.
You want to switch for now and I'll change the batteries?
No, what I'm going to do, Bobby, we're going to work on the fly here, lapel.
Why else we get this good?
Sorry about that.
I don't waddle, I dawdle. I don't remember Rose and Jimmy, the Cox little girl, little boy and little girl. It doesn't matter. I keep them after I had my hip surgery. I was using a walker.
How's that? Can you hear me still? This one's going to be sound a little bit different. It's not quite
Yes, I always walk like a pig.
dialed in and robust, but please throw your hand up if it's like, Joel, you sound very bassy or squelchy. We can fix that. So thank you, sir. Appreciate that. But again, yes, I hope nobody was affected by severe weather last night. We always need rain. Okay. Two things I always decided that I would never pray for was too much rain or not enough rain, meaning rain stop and go away, and warmer temperatures. Well, that's what we're going to get to this morning. So you can't talk about that yet. So, but yeah, since it's over 100 degrees all the time in the summer, I always said I'll never pray for it to get hotter. But that's not true. We can always do that. If you want it to be 120, then pray for it to be 120. That's okay. Just know that everybody is countering you by saying not to get warmer, God. So we don't know what's going to happen with that, okay? Again, great to see everybody today. If you are expecting some incredible Bible class about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, I hate to disappoint you because I'm not going to do that this morning. But if you really get down to it, I challenge the teenagers sometimes when I'm teaching them is to show me a verse that we can't point to something like that, and then you've won the challenge. Nobody has won that challenge yet to say that we can't connect a verse to death, burial, resurrection of Jesus. I'm sure Adrian will have a wonderful sermon designed just for Easter Sunday. So we will definitely wait for that. We're going to continue in Psalms, looking at step 6, living faithfully, with different headings for things associated. We finished last week at the end of 27, but I do We do have to take a close look at the very last couple of verses of Psalm 27. I wanted to get there. We really didn't, but I think it's really relevant on the idea of patience/impatience, Mary. So you kind of took us there and you didn't know it. But again, our summary of Psalm 27 gives us emotional stability in a very chaotic world. You can read Psalm 27 to get that. When we have lots of external challenges going on in our life around us, we can read Psalm 27 and get inner strength and inner peace. A great call to stay centered. Center yourself. Keep yourself not swaying back and forth from one emotional extreme to another, but try to be centered and use God's help in that. An incredible amount of hope when times are uncertain. And of course, the last part, a reminder to be patient with timing. So I'll read to you Psalm 27, verse 13 and 14 again. And we'll talk about that for a few minutes this morning. And then we'll move to the other two that I had to do some homework for. So thank you. Oh, yeah. There we go. So we're going to try to use 4 back there? Uh-oh. We'll see. Okay. Verse 13, I am still confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart, and wait for the Lord. So patience is so important. He had to say it at the beginning part of the verse and the end part of the verse. So my question for you to discuss this morning as we jump in is, in this crazy, fast-paced, chaotic world, what are some things that we can do to wait on the Lord? And I said we, notice I said we can do to wait on the Lord. And what are some things that you specifically do to wait on the Lord? So I'm looking for the big macro answer and looking for the small micro answer, the we part and the you part. What does it mean to wait on the Lord in today's fast-paced, chaotic culture?
Stay focused.
Yes, already said that. I'm kidding. What does that mean, stay focused, Glenda? Be ready too. Sometimes I call you guys out and say expand on that answer.
It means to always keep your priorities straight and not get caught up in what's going on in the world, the fear and apprehension that the news media sometimes promotes, but keep your focus on living for Christ, studying His Word, staying in the Word, and praying, and just waiting for Him to come back.
Yes, lots and lots of prayer, lots and lots of study. Remember, I keep talking about 1 verse a day is all we need to really, really send off this chaotic world. 1 verse a day. And there's a million ways to do that every single day at some point of the day. Yes, very good. Very good. Again, fast-paced culture. I always have thought that I'm an impatient person. And I want things to come very quickly and happen very fast. I know when I was younger in my career, and it's tough to say that in front of you, younger in my career, I wanted steps on the career ladder. I wanted it fast. I looked around the people around me and said, why do they get promoted and I don't get promoted? I want it. I want it. I need it. I deserve it. I'm doing the work for it. Do you see how many I's are in there? Big problem that we'll get to in Psalm 37 a little bit. My amazing wife tells me she thinks I'm one of the most patient people that she knows. And I'm like, how in the world? Well, she talks about driving. I try to be a very patient driver, okay? When my family goes driving around town and long distance trips, I'm always saying, be careful and let everybody else do whatever they want to do, and don't become the one that wants to do something that they're doing. Because aren't drivers pretty crazy nowadays? and very, very impatient, okay? Out where we live, we have seen people, we live by trains. I know you guys do here too, but we have trains that literally block you from going for 30 minutes. You can't move, you're sitting there. We've seen people drive down Bonds Ranch Road against traffic to be able to turn left because we're trying to go this way. They're trying to go this way and turn left, and they go against the traffic flow because there's no traffic coming because of the train. They just create another lane. And it just drives us crazy. So any other thoughts on in today's world, fast-paced culture, how do we align to this verse, wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart and wait for the Lord? I like the be strong part. It's hard to be strong in a fast-paced, chaotic, because so much information is coming at you, so many things are happening, you don't know which one to attach to sometimes. Well, okay, he's right, and they're right, and oh, they're 100% not right. And it's just so much things going on at one time. So, Glenda, yes, I appreciate that very much. And I know that you live to that. You live to that statement, and that's very appreciated. Anybody else, how do you stay in this mode of waiting for the Lord? Don't forget it's twice in verse 14. Wait for the Lord, wait for the Lord. Any other thoughts and ideas on that before we close it off? Adrian, yes, sir. You got to have a mic. The end of Psalm 27. Okay. No worries. Good. What was that? That's what the microphone does to you. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Life throws things at you and it makes it hard to wait.
Life throws things at you and makes it hard. It kind of takes that be strong part and makes it very hard, right, in that verse. So, yeah, that's good. That's good.
Not doing anything and waiting.
Yes. I'm a deep breath person. I'll take the 5 or 6 seconds in and 5 or 6 seconds out. Try to relax a little bit when times are impatient and so forth. Cindy, did you have something, or did you just want to hold on to the mic?
I was being patient, and I was waiting for you to.
Man, there it is, keeping the teacher in check. Okay, I love that.
So, I was reading over it, Psalms 27. I was thinking about waiting. It looks like people are surrounding you and things coming for you, and it's not a time to panic, I guess, or have a knee-jerk reaction when people look like they mean to do you harm, or in the busy, fast pace, you feel like I've got to do something. And I guess that's what I'm thinking, that you don't have to do something. You can kind of take everything in prayer and thoughtfulness, make a spiritually informed decision. And then also, a lot of times, fast paced, sometimes when you just keep busy, you lose focus, eternal focus, because that's what you really should be, is always, thinking about that. But when busy, sometimes people say, like, the devil just has to keep you busy. He really doesn't have to make you do evil. Just keep you busy and keep your mind off of your eternal perspective. Anyway.
Yes, very much so. Okay, very much so. Yes, I love the idea of the busy, fast-paced world. When I interview people at my company, one of the questions I like to ask people is, in a very fast-paced business world, how do you focus on the top priority item? How do you reprioritize or balance and stuff like that? It's a very hard question to answer, although everybody puts on their resume, I have an easy ability to balance my priorities and focus on the thing that needs to be done the most. And then when you ask them a question about it, it gets really hard. And trust me, I have that on my resume too. So, and also the other phrase that says, I have the ability to multitask and get multiple things done at one time. I always ask a question, how do you do that? How do you do all these different things at one time? At one time, that's what the resume says, and keep your focus on the priority that's at hand. How do you do that? So you can answer that question if you want to. Typically, the answer is, well, yes, there are a lot of things coming at me, and I can look at something real quick and say, well, I can do that later. And then something else is coming in, I can do that later. And I know I have 4 questions about that thing that just hit me, but I'm also focused on this thing that I got to get done in the next hour, and then I got to get other things, the long, medium, short type goals of the day and the week and the month and whatever. So yeah, you got to take that deep breath, try to stay focused, try to prioritize. I love the word prioritize. Yes, Bobby?
Aren't we as Christians kind of experts at multitasking, though? Like we're dealing with everything in the world that the world's throwing at us while also keeping God in our life. I mean, that's multitasking right there.
Oh, yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree with that statement. Yeah, for sure the idea of our brain multitasking there, it does work. My thought process on my weird question for interviews is how can you type a reply email to this person and type a reply email to this person at the same time? You can't. You do have to wait and do one or the other. So, but yes, I think we have to do a really good job of that multitasking side. Yes, we do. Good. Any other thoughts on, Mary, you said something about impatience when you walked in here, so you're not talking yet, but it's okay. Glenda.
I think the take heart here, the take heart
yes.
in this means don't get discouraged while you're waiting. And that to me is the hardest part.
Because there's discouragements all the time, right? They never stop. They never stop. Good. Good class. Really appreciate that this morning. I hope we find ways to align to this psalm, again, under the idea of when men fail you and you are depressed, is the reason we studied Psalm 27. All right. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to move to your homework, Psalm 37. When your wallet is empty. Oh, I'm sure we're going to love this one. Now, let me set this one up for a minute. It is 40 verses, okay? And I'm going to read them all. Because there is nothing more powerful in the world that you guys just said than simply reading Scripture. I know Bill Knowles one Sunday evening when he was leading worship, his sermon was to read Scripture, and that's it. That's all he did. And it was so powerful and so good and so wonderful. So when you read this psalm, you may think, well, Joel, this has nothing to do with money. Well, it does and it doesn't, and that's what I want you to help me with, is those particular parts of this psalm, and thinking about why in the world would David need to write stuff like this down? I want you to think about that question as we read through it. Also, there are some things you get in here, a couple of verses that talks about David's age when he wrote this. See if you can call those out. Where we see things about money and the lack of it or the abundance of it, and little connections to Proverbs when you think you don't have enough. Where you see verses about contentment, and that's a whole nother class. But there's some contentment in here too. I'd like for you to call that out. Where you see foreshadowing, from even today's times, that the world was materialistic then, it still is today. So see if you can see some connections to that. All right, so let's get reading here. Here we go. Do not fret because of evil men, or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, the justice of your cause like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when men succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. For evil men will be cut off, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found, but the meek will inherit the land and enjoy great peace. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them, but the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend the bow to bring down the poor and needy, to slay those whose ways are upright. But their swords will pierce their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. Better the little that the righteous have than the wealth of many wicked. For the power of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The days of the blameless are known to the Lord, and their inheritance will endure forever. In times of disaster they will not wither. In days of famine they will enjoy plenty. But the wicked will perish. The Lord's enemies will be like the beauty of the fields. They will vanish like smoke. The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. Those the Lord blesses will inherit the land, but those he curses will be cut off. If the Lord delights in a man's way, he makes his steps firm. Though he stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. I was young, and now I am old, yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. They are always generous and lend freely. Their children will be blessed. I turn from evil and do good, then you will dwell on the land forever. For the Lord loves the just and will not forsake his faithful ones. They will be protected forever, but the offspring of the wicked will be cut off. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. The mouth of the righteous man utters wisdom, and his tongue speaks what is just. The law of his God is in his heart. His feet do not slip. The wicked lie in wait for the righteous, seeking their very lives, but the Lord will not leave them in their power or let them be condemned when brought to trial. Wait for the Lord and keep his way. He will exalt you to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, you will see it. I have seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a green tree in its native soil, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found. Consider the blameless, observe the upright. There is a future for the man of peace. But all sinners will be destroyed. The future of the wicked will be cut off. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in times of trouble. The Lord helps them and delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. So, wow. Okay, there is a lot to break down there. Let's start with your thoughts on why in the world would David, a very rich, materially and wealthy king with anything at his disposal at the snap of a finger, need to write a psalm like this to help us as 2025 Christians on the idea of what to do when your wallet is empty? Why in the world, how in the world would he need to do this?
I think he wrote it as a reminder to himself, because if you remember, he was a shepherd. They didn't really have a lot. And so he knew what it was to be without and to trust in God without, as well as his riches now. So it helps us, but I think it was a reminder to him.
Yes, it totally was. That's a great answer. He wrote it for our benefit, and he wrote it for his own benefit, to remember times of maybe need and remember times of plenty and so forth. Yeah, Jim.
I tell you, I never entered the monetary aspect of this. It never entered my mind. So I see it totally different, and I'm going to be very quiet because of that. But I saw it as wickedness versus righteousness. That's the whole thing, because this is what I'm seeing, men that the wicked succeeding, the downtrodden, the poor, the godliness being mistreated and shut up everything. So I've seen it, the whole thing like this. So I'm going to just sit here and listen to y'all.
No, that's okay. That's okay. But we see some underpinnings in the idea of the wicked because of wealth. The wicked because of their schemes. Okay, yes, just to be generally wicked, but there's connections, and the study that I use for this makes those connections about the idea of, hey, there is no get-rich-quick schemes out there, okay? And as a materialistic society sometimes, don't we gravitate generally toward those people who have more material things than we do, and we want to learn from them? And that's the kind of the study of this too. There's no doubt, Mr. Edgman, what you're saying is totally spot on, okay? When you get into some of the underpinnings of it though, the borrowing and not repaying, okay, I just gave you an answer, okay? The borrowing and not repaying, the wicked schemes from a wealth perspective, you make those connections, and how do we stay away from that? How do we as Christians here in 2025 stay away from wicked schemes of those from a financial perspective? How do you stay away from that?
This is where you this is where you have to wait on the Lord. You pray about it. You see things that are going on in the world where the wicked prosper, and you just have to pray and wait on the Lord, because things are going to change. That's one thing that we can count on. Things are going to change.
Either here on earth or ultimately in heaven someday. I can't wait to not have to pay for things in heaven, you know. I can't wait for that day. I don't have to worry about that. Hey, back to when I was young, I worried about money all the time. Didn't have enough, wasn't going to be able to afford a home and cars and insurance and blah, just fill in the blank all the time. Really, really bad. Remember I talked to you about that career ladder? I deserve. Well, after a lot of study and going into my 30s and 40s, I realized it ain't got nothing to do with me. It's all got to do with God and His timing and His approach. So I handed everything over to God when it came to career and finances. And you know what? There's not a day gone by that I haven't had something to eat, or haven't had a roof over my head, or haven't had a car to drive, or haven't had a job, or ability to pay for things, and even ability to save for retirement, okay? And I think you see all those kind of things, and this verse is a lot of prayer. Mr. King goes into something like that to get you to that state of contentment, okay? You kind of see that in, does anybody remember a verse about contentment? In here? Not in the Bible, just in here. It's 16. Go to verse 16. Better the little that the righteous have than the wealth of the many wicked. Hey, it's okay where we stand today. Paul was the ultimate guy to talk about contentment in a lot of his letters. So connection there, right? Here's a connection of David to Paul's letters in the future about being content in our lifestyle and with our finances and more and more. So again, I see articles sometimes about get-rich-quick schemes. Let's talk about that for just a minute, okay? That nowadays it's using AI to come up with an idea to write an ebook and let AI write the book for you, which is totally legal, by the way. And then you go to another website that you create, and you go to your social media page and you sell it. You sell that book for $10, $15, whatever. And if you sell 1,000 of them, you just made $10,000. If you sell 10,000 of them, you just made this. And then what people do is they take what they've learned and they sell that to other people who want to learn for $99.95. Okay, you go to a website and you buy what they've learned. And I read things about that. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. It is kind of hooking. You start thinking, oh my word, I can do this. I have some ideas. And then you realize that the amount of time that you have to put into it is really no different than having a good old steady plodding 40 to 50 hour a week job, because you don't put 40 or 50 hours into a job like that. You put 120 hours a week. You don't ever stop. You never stop doing it. And we know that, I believe that goes against our scripture too, to rest, okay? We have to rest from our labor. I don't know, were there any get-rich-quick schemes when all of you were way, way younger? Because, I mean, yeah, there were computers and stuff like that, but, well, where's Bill? I can always call on Bill for something like that, say that there weren't computers. And you guys probably remember days when there weren't. But were there ever get-rich-quick schemes detached from computers? Can anybody think of one?
Amway.
Amway. Wait a second, Chuck. They actually sell something. Amway
I think we've all
sells
been duped
products,
with
you know.
Amway.
The Amway pyramid scheme, right? So, and, sorry, any Amway salespeople in here? Okay. Yeah, Amway was a big one a long, long time ago, that it wasn't about anything, it wasn't about the product, even though it was a product to sell, it was how many people could you get under you. And then if you're smart, you realize only the tippy top ever make any money, and nobody down low ever does. They just don't ever do it. Okay, but again, you don't do it in an hour a day, you have to do it all the time.
I don't think that's gone away.
No, right. Oh, Bobby, it hasn't gone away. Now it's gone full electronic, okay? And I know I will probably, some of you will probably raise your hand to this one, because I buy them sometimes, or we do for our family, the Young Living essential oils. You know, the essential oil business is a pyramid scheme. Only the tippy top people really make money. Now, I actually know somebody from a job who did very well selling essential oil, but he did it by getting a lot of people under him and making money from their money, so forth. He did okay. So, but it's just not, I don't believe it's what Scripture really teaches us, the slow, steady approach to your income and to patience, and not letting the wicked schemes of those who do prosper, because there are people who do prosper from wicked schemes, okay? Bernie Madoff, you remember him of, 20 years ago or so? Hey, when you watch the Netflix thing or whatever's out there about him, you're like, man, I would have given him money. He was so good at selling the idea of wealth and prosperity if you simply give him the money to go take care of and invest. And I think this psalm's got everything against that. Do you think people were plotting and around David to try to be more wealthy than David, to try to get David and his kingdom to pay for things that he didn't need, maybe like that $600 toilet seat or something like that, Bad example, but you think people were doing that to David? I think they were, otherwise he would have written it down. What's that? No, try to make money off your situation, okay? And they did it back then to David, and I think he had to keep himself in check about it, okay? Of course, we know Solomon was the ultimate of thinking he never, ever, ever had enough until he finally figured it out. Cindy, you got the mic.
Yes, okay. This last, I'm not going to talk again, but.
I want you talking all the time.
I've had the unique, opportunity. I went to Hollywood for 4 years because I was going to get out of this one-horse town in Saginaw and, see the world. And I learned a lot. First of all, I learned that, the Saginaw is a really great place, and I'm glad I was born here, and I'm happy I'm here. But I was around a lot of rich people. I was very poor because I was a, Hollywood assistant, but I was surrounded by very wealthy people. And it is miserable to be wealthy because you're still competing with even wealthier people. And I used to get calls constantly for people, for parties and galas, and they were asking for donations. And you're constantly calling your boss, like, you're going to go to this party? Yeah, okay, well, what do you want? Do you want to be the sapphire donor? That's $25,000. Would you like to be the platinum donor? That's $100,000. So they are constantly having to, people siphoning off of them. Mm-hmm. It's very lonely. have a tight-knit group because everyone is at you. That's why I was thinking of King David. He probably had the perspective of being poor and maybe not having everything, but not having everyone trying to leech and siphon off you constantly and never really knowing who your friend is. And it's good to be satisfied with, I tell my kids, middle class is great because you have all your needs met, but not all your wants. And that's one of those that gives you motivation. That's kind of like you can dream and scheme and have fun. Nobody's constantly at you trying to get things. The richer you get, the lonelier it gets. And yeah, I've just learned that. And it's good. It's a miserable place to be.
That's a great, I think you see that throughout this psalm, you know, that can end up happening. But your thought process invoked another question that I have. How do we get away from the wanting? How do we stop doing that? How do we ease that a little bit? You just heard from me, younger days, want. How does that happen? I know Mr. King said, wait and pray, okay, and great things will happen, and that's really, really good. Are there others, though? How do you get away from wanting more, wanting the shinier car, wanting the bigger house, wanting the fatter wallet? Because this is about your wallet being empty, by the way. Yes, Bobby?
I think that comes with just getting older. I mean, the amount of patience I have now, there it is again, patience, but the amount of patience I have now compared to in my teens and 20s, it's incredible. And you just learn it as you get older.
So there's a wisdom part to it.
Yes.
Okay. I totally agree with that. There's a wisdom, but I didn't have it back then. I'm not an expert at wisdom in it now, you know. Yes, Glenda?
I think it's a learned process because Paul said, you know, I've had a lot and I've had nothing, and I've learned to be content in the state I'm in. And I think we get there by prayer. I pray all the time for God to give me a content heart, to not want things that, things of the world, or, you know, more of this or more of that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make a comment about those first few verses because
Please, yeah.
they make me think of David's relationship with Saul, because Saul did evil all the time, and so I think he's referring, I mean, to me, it kind of fits that he would say, don't fret over people who do evil or do wrong, because, you know, they're going to meet their end, and if you trust God, He's going to take care of you and He will vindicate you against those people.
Totally agree. Anybody have the King James Version? Speaking of those first few verses.
This is the New King James is what I'm looking at.
What does your verse 3 say, Glenda?
Trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture.
Okay, there's another phrase in another King James. Anybody have a different version? Feed on his faithfulness is what's in some versions. Anybody have that version? Feed on his faithfulness. Really, I kind of wish the NIV and others hadn't changed this to enjoy safe pasture. I like that, but feed on his faithfulness is in other versions. And man, the idea of feeding on faithfulness is so evident throughout this psalm as well. So very good. Yes, the contentment thing. What did Paul say about contentment? He said, those who find a state of contentment will be rewarded with great gain. So isn't that amazing to think of? Glenda, you kind of hit on that. The idea, if you can get into a contentment state, you're going to have great gain in that from the Lord. And that's incredible to remember those connections. We talked about, Bobby, you talked about being wise, okay? The idea that this comes with learning from Glenda and wisdom. Where does David talk about his age in here? Huh? Yeah. And then in 23 again, Wait. 25. Yes, ma'am. In 25, I was young, Bobby, and I was still trying to figure things out, and now I'm old, but even throughout all that, I've never seen the righteous forsaken, but the unrighteous have been forsaken. Oh, he's flopping around, okay? Or children begging for bread. It's always going to have food on the table, right? And if I'm ever studying with someone or I do a class on true contentment, all right, which is not today, it's way, way longer than that. And Cindy, you mentioned this, you grew up saying you're poor and you were around a lot of wealthy people, but you were still rich compared to the world, you know. Nobody likes to hear that, right? Well, don't compare me to the world. I know the world is way less fortunate than I am, and stop saying that. I don't want you to say that, but it is true. We have to be very, very careful with that. And I'm not saying you're wrong, okay? But yeah, I think we see all that in this psalm as well. Hey, even a quick connection as a complete side note, up in verse 26, the 3 promises to Abraham, they're always generous and lend freely, their children will be blessed. Remember, all people are blessed through Christ. First from Abraham, and then through Christ was the 3rd promise to Abraham, and you get that from David. So glad he knew things like that and was able to write them down in his psalm. A couple of quick tidbits. Verse 21, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. We got to be careful when we borrow money. Okay, your idea of borrowing money should be you're paying back every cent plus the interest you were supposed to do when it came to signing that contract. No doubt about that. So you see a little bit of that in there as well. We may talk a little bit about this more at the end of class, at the beginning of class next week, and then get into Psalm 67, when your prayers grow narrow and selfish. We'll focus on that next week in the end of 37. But one quick tidbit too. You'll see in a few verses here that dishonesty with your finances is going to get you in trouble. And you shouldn't do that, right? You shouldn't do that. I know tax time just finished up, okay? And I was not able to itemize deductions for the first time in a long time because, thank you, people who did it. You put something in place that I don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really, really good. But itemizing deductions helps lower my tax burden. And I didn't try to fake my way to add a bunch of charitable deductions that didn't exist. And I know people who've done that before. And we got to be really, really careful with stuff like that. Matter of fact, not be careful. You can't do it. God will call that out and make sure that is brought out. So let's stop there. Great class, great discussion as always. Really appreciate it. I hope you understand, yes, some of those underpinnings of your wallet being empty in Psalm 37. We'll finish it up and then continue with 67 next week. Let's get ready for an incredible Easter worship service.